Welcome to Career Ambitions, the podcast for corporate professionals who are ready to stop waiting and take control of their careers. If you're tired of sending applications into the void, wondering why you're not getting interviews, and watching opportunities go to people who are no more qualified than you, you're in the right place, my friends. I'm Joanne Sparrow, former HR director turned career coach, and I've spent more than 2 decades sitting on the other side of the hiring table. That means I know exactly what hiring managers think and what they say behind closed doors. Join me on this episode of Career Ambitions, where I'm pulling back the curtains on the hiring process and unapologetically exposing the truths job seekers are never told to give you the strategy and confidence to move your career forward and land your dream job or promotion. Hello and welcome to Career Ambitions. In today's episode, we're talking to Shruti, Shruti and I met on LinkedIn. Our paths crossed when I had put out a post to offer to do free LinkedIn profile audits, and Shruti and I connected. And throughout the course of our conversations, we realized we both have a passion for flying, and then I realized that you also enjoy riding motorcycles. So I'm super excited about this conversation because we have so much in common. Shruti, would you like to add to that as introduce yourself?
Yes, Joanne, for sure. Thank you for having me. And you're absolutely right. We connected on a professional platform, LinkedIn, and then eventually realized there's so much more common that we have in our personal life, right? So that was always the connection, and that's how we built our relationship.
Yeah, and it feels, you're very welcome. I'm thrilled you're here, and it just feels like it just evolved so quickly. We just have that some things in common. So let's just dive in, because we're going to talk a little bit about flying, learning to fly, and how it's related to career transitions, life, and career promotions, and leadership, and all the great things about work. So, Shruti, maybe you can tell your story of what first drew you to flying lessons, and what did that decision represent to you at this stage in your life or career?
Sure. Okay. So, I have a little bit of a different background here. I grew up in India. My parents were doctors in the Indian Army. So I was always around Air Force pilots and personnel constantly while I was growing up. I was obsessed with the idea of being a fighter pilot. I was. And then when it was time to apply for that, I realized I was a little shorter than the basic requirement of being a fighter pilot. But you know what? It was always the dream. So then life happened. I moved on, chose a career, moved countries, and here we are. A few years ago, when after our transition to Canada, my husband actually gave me a discovery flight at the Burlington Flying Airport a few years ago, and it hooked me immediately. But I didn't get serious about it till, I would say, last year, when I actually had the time to do this. But it was always something that I wanted to pursue. So now I'm completely into it. I'm doing lessons twice a week, ground school, the whole thing. And you know what? Some of it is also the stage of life you're in. And it's like realizing, what do I actually want to do? Like, I have my personal life, I have my professional life, and then I have my hobbies. And some of them are really different, right? Like, I've always wanted to do this and never knew I could. So now I am.
I love that. And just hearing you talk about it just brings back all those fresh memories of my days of flying. And my gosh, that was 20 years ago when I pursued my, 20. And I was in a different stage in life, but I'm actually going to share my story on a separate episode. People do ask, and I've shared it many times, and so I'm going to share that for a separate episode, because this is about you and what you can share with our audience here today. So let's talk about how flying requires a lot of trust in yourself, your training, and your ability to stay calm. How has that reinforced what you already know about or knew about leadership?
I've had some really good leaders and mentors in my career, Joanne. So a lot of this is inherent knowledge that was passed on. I see how my leaders respond in situations like that. One of the best mentors I've had was always calm. you could literally be on fire. And he was calm, and he was
Mm.
always thinking how he can resolve it without creating that fear. So I think that's kind of what I took from it. He trusted his abilities to do what needed to do. But if you're all frazzled and scattered, you can't think. So that's kind of what I took from him. And that's how I practice it today. It's clear communication, calm, and just weighing your options, right? The moment you get flustered, you don't think clearly. And sometimes what happens is there's just too many options in the air and you can't weigh them out. So like flying, you're in the air, your feet are literally not on the ground, right? So it's kind of challenging that you have to make those decisions in that moment, but it is so true. It's like business. You're in so many things, depending on the roles you have, you could have so many things going on, how to manage those different priorities, different results, I would say, right? So it's about making sure you're calm. That's how I try to do it. Yes, I could be nervous within, but I try to be calm. I try to weigh the pros and cons of everything and then make a decision. You do the best you can. And the outcome comes out to be what it is. You live with it.
Yes. And that makes me think of what my instructor had told me early on in my training. The engine could be on fire, it could be smoke in the cockpit, but you have to fly the plane, fly the plane, fly the plane. You know, take all of your trainings, stay calm, and just focus on finding somewhere to land.
Yes. Yes. And you know what? That was the interesting part. My instructor, every time we go up, we rehearse this. He talks to me. Okay, look around. What's there? What if this happens? So it's been, again, I'm fairly newer to the training and working on my license, but this is a continuous when we do it every class going up. If this happens, how are you going to respond? So take a minute and think.
Yes. Yep. If the plane were to, if the engine were to stop now, where are you going to land? What direction are you going to go in? You know, what does that look like? So treating your career the same way and, you know, looking out for those obstacles and hurdles and how are you going to maneuver around those in your career?
Yeah. It's life, right? It's everything we do professionally, personally, hobbies. They're all part of our life. That's who we are.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So when you're in the cockpit, and you have to make decisions with imperfect information.
Yes.
How has that shaped how you make career decisions, especially during moments of uncertainty or transition?
I would love to say you always have all the information, be it a project, career decision, or in the cockpit, as you said, you never do, right? The information is dynamic, things change. I've always been a list person. So it's a pro and con list for me. I review what's going on, what the risks are. I wish I could take a paper and pen in my when I'm flying. I can't do that. So it's always a mental list that I'm working through. But it's always come down to a list. So same process, pro and con list, work through it's there. The fundamentals always make sense. So taking that over, make a decision and trust your judgment. You're there in that boardroom. You're there in the cockpit because you chose to be, because you're qualified to be. Right? Either you're learning or you're there in a leadership role. Doesn't matter, right? But you chose to be there and you're there for a reason. So your fundamentals are there. Trust your fundamentals. Work with, like for me, it's all about lists and trusting my fundamentals.
Amazing. And what has flying taught you about how to use fear as a diagnostic tool?
That's a big one. That's a big one. I don't know if you get the same feeling, but I'm really nervous on roller coasters. I love going on them, but I'm still very nervous with all the dips and the highs as it goes. And I have this pit in my stomach when I'm on a roller coaster. My husband was big on roller coasters at some point. Thankfully, that has faded, so I don't have to jump on roller coasters anymore. But it's the same thing with flying for me. One of the times we were actually flying from Edmonton to Calgary, I think, and it was a really turbulent moment. And the plane dropped, and that's just because of what the weather conditions are. It's just normal, right? But the pit in my stomach is there. When I'm in the cockpit, that still is there, but what I've overcome over time is I've gotten more comfortable with it. It hasn't gone away. It's become more comfortable. So the trust, my instructor's there, he's guiding me. How do I manage that, right? He's teaching me, so I have to trust the training as I'm doing it, but the fear is constant. So for me, fear is not about being nervous or uncomfortable. Sometimes fear is also information.
Mm-hmm.
It's the intuitiveness of what's happening around you. So it's making sure that I read the fear the way I read it. It's compartmentalizing it, putting it in places. Is it my intuition talking? Is I'm actually nervous about something? Because nervous and fear can be very close to each other.
Yes.
Right. So
Yes.
it's, for me, it's about figuring out the fear, going and doing it over and over again. And that's how I overcome it. I don't think I will ever get rid of that pit in my stomach. Hopefully it gets better over time, and it has. But it's always been there.
And I think that's okay.
Mhm.
And it makes me think of also when I decided to get my motorcycle license. I had never been on a bike before except as a passenger. And I decided I'm getting my own bike. I'm not going to be a passenger. And so I signed up for the motorcycle lessons, and similar to flying, like I was, there is that sense of fear, but my instructors taught me that that's a good thing. It's keeps you aware, and you've got to be on.
Yes.
And when you're not on, you shouldn't get in the cockpit, or get on the bike. And that's really important, and it goes to self-awareness, right? How are you feeling today? Maybe I shouldn't get on the bike today. My head's not clear, right? Similar to flying. So
I think what your instructor says and what you're saying is so relevant, in the sense of we have to be self-aware. We have to also be okay with not being okay.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard.
So you have made pivots in your career. And looking back, what helped you recognize when it was time to change direction instead of staying on autopilot? Love this question.
I mean, that's a great question. Thank you. Pivots. For me, especially in my career, the one thing which I cannot compromise on is continuous learning. I need to keep learning. I need to keep growing. I need to be challenged every day. When it becomes a routine, it gets boring. And I don't do well with boring. I really don't do well with boring. So it's that realization that am I learning something new? Can I do something differently today that I wasn't able to do a year ago, right? And I've been in situations where I've actually gone to my leaders and said, hey, I can do this job. You hired me for this job. I can do this. What's next? And what's next doesn't mean up on the ladder. It really doesn't. For me, it could be a new project. It could be a new tool that I'm learning, or a new process that I'm putting together, or being part of the process, right? So for me, every time I've made a pivot is because I was either capped out or wasn't getting the opportunity to learn or discover new things.
Yes.
And I just don't pick up and leave. That's not who I am. But I've actually, at one point in my career, I actually went and told my leader at that point 3 times in 3 different months that I needed more before I decided to move. And some of it was they didn't have anything more to give. And some of it was they didn't want to. Whichever way it went,
right.
It was something that I needed to do.
Yeah. For me, I find where I get energized at work or in my current career as a career coach is when I'm evolving, growing, learning, taking on something new. And so that's important for job seekers to understand what kind of work energizes them and what kind of work drains them.
Yeah. Actually, you've been through a bunch of career pivots as well, right? So what has your journey looked like?
Oh, my journey has been interesting. I wasn't expecting you to ask me that question. I needed stability for a big chunk of my career because I was a single parent. So I stayed at Pattison Outdoor Advertising for 12 years. It was a great run. I had a lot of great opportunities, implemented an ATS system, an HRIS system, brought in some newer ways of interviewing sales reps, simulations, putting them through simulations. And anyways, that was a really good run. And I still have friends at Pattison and very fond memories. And then from there, the next move, well, that was within a week, I was saying to myself, what the hell have I gotten myself into? And yeah, that was a very challenging role. And I'm not going to say the name, but you can see it on my LinkedIn profile, the company, global company. So in a way, even though it was a very challenging environment for me to be in, I learned a lot and I was able to accomplish a lot in those 2 years that I was there. So for the audience listening, if you're in a soul crushing job today, it's not going to last forever. Just know that you will land where you're meant to be. And those roles that you're, just crushing you and you're frustrated, you will grow from those and take away from those opportunities as you move into your next role. So yeah, I've made some pivots into, advertising, commercial real estate, public relations, marketing. I've done some work in pharmaceutical and manufacturing. So quite broad, but I've never had a role in labor relations, which I'm okay with. There was one area that I really wasn't curious at all to get into.
But Joanne, I mean, follow up to that. Do you feel that those challenging roles taught you the most?
Oh, 100%.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, at least for me, the way I look at it is sometimes those roles are the pivots where either they tell you what you don't want to be too, right? It's
Yes.
like eliminating that or suggesting that, hey, this is not the path I want to take, but I learned from this.
Yes. Yeah. There's learnings in everything. So, okay. So back to flying. When we're flying, we consistently check our instruments, check in the weather. I actually became a weather geek during my training. I constantly looking at the radar, even to today, what's the weather happening? And what would you say are the career instruments that you now pay attention to in assessing whether you're aligned, growing, or off course?
Interesting question. For me, I think, again, it's about the excitement and something that empowers me to do what I need to do. So I think growing, definitely, as I said before, I'm going to use and borrow your word, evolution and evolving. So evolving myself in the career. Am I learning new things? Can I do things I couldn't do a year ago? Right? So something new. I got onto I'm going to use this as an example. I got onto the AI bandwagon long ago. So I was using ChatGPT or Claude when they were all new. So it was very testing and stuff like that. So it's being relevant, right? So those are the instruments I use for myself, being relevant, being aware, and also trying out different things. And with doing all of that, is that exciting? Does that make me want to go to work? Does that make me do something different, right? And then all of this, what it translates into eventually is, do I have the real visibility into the things I like to do? Can I make an impact? Can I contribute? Can I pulse check? And as a leader, a lot of the times we're not working on projects. We're working with people. So making sure my pulse check is my people are doing okay. My people want to come back to work. My people feel that they have the safe space to be able to share what's on their mind without being concerned of the outcome. So I'm very proud of the teams I've built over time that way, but people and the instruments that I use are something to that effect. It's more about being there in the moment with the people and checking it out.
Learning new things, trying new things. And even if you fail, there's learning in those failures.
Totally.
Right.
I mean, mistakes are part of doing something new. If you are not making mistakes, you're not learning anything new.
That's right.
Nobody's perfect.
Yes. Yeah. So what's one lesson from your flying that you wish more corporate professionals would apply when pursuing promotions or bigger career opportunities?
Okay, you're going to make me think on this one. It's about coming back to your fundamentals, right? Like looking at the flying experience that I have, a lot of pilots, they have their experience, they've built time and hours flying, but they always do their checks. They always come back to their fundamentals. And what I've realized over time is the bigger the role, the more that you need the humility to be part of that role. Arrogance doesn't help, right? In an example that I could share here is much earlier in my career, I had a very seasoned professional. He had 35 years of experience, and they were really confident, accomplished, had done a lot, had a great track record. But then they also thought that they could do things differently, which is great. I mean, that's why you're here. You could do things differently, but it wasn't in a collaborative manner. It was coming from a position of, hey, I know this. I don't care. You're going to follow what I'm saying. Okay, you can live with it till the time the results are there. But what ended up happening over the next year or so was they lost the results, but they also lost the people. So the team was demotivated. People had started leaving. And that is never good. I mean, I genuinely believe in your career, if you're a team lead or you have a team that reports into you, people are your biggest assets, right? So if your people are not motivated enough and they cannot understand where you're coming from, you're not going to achieve what you're supposed to be doing. You just cannot. There's only so much you can physically do, right? So what I learned from this was the experience was there with the professional, but the fundamental had disappeared. Right. So what I would say is I love, like every day I do, I don't know if I ever mentioned this to you. I was doing the flight check or the plane check before you go for the lesson. And I fell off the plane, the walk around. Yes. I fell off the wing because
checking the fuel.
They're checking the fuel. And I'm like, I wish I didn't have to do it, but it actually makes me more in tune with the aircraft that I'm going to be flying. And I get a pulse of the thing. So coming back to the fundamentals, I think I've seen it in movies. I don't know if it happens in real life, but I've seen it in movies where all the pilots check their planes. It's a commercial plane. They still do the walk around. They still do all the tests. So coming back to your fundamentals, that is such a big key.
Yes. You mentioned the word arrogance, and arrogance will get you in trouble. Whether you're flying a plane, riding a motorcycle, in a leadership role,
in life.
Yes. It's one thing to be confident, but arrogance, I'll die on a hill saying this, it's going to get you in trouble.
And sometimes I feel there's a very thin line between the two. You can hop over on either side depending on where you are in your life.
Yeah, and in the moments.
Yeah. In the moments, yeah. But you're right. Humility, I feel the best, coming from my experience, the best leaders I've had, my instructor, they're the most grounded people I've met. They're not trying to show off the title that they have, or they don't have that in power. Another leader once told me that you're always the insurance policy for your team. You're the leader because you're the insurance policy for the team, right? So you're not just leading from the front, you're also leading from the back so they can fall upon. Now, that position can only come from being grounded.
Yes.
Right? I feel that is so important. So important. Yeah.
It is. So how has flying changed your relationship with failure or mistakes? And especially knowing in both aviation and careers, mistakes can become powerful lessons when we debrief them properly.
For me, mistakes are part of life. You're going to make mistakes if you're learning something new. And that is also the proof that you're learning something new, right? So one of the things that I say to my team is make mistakes, make them fast, and learn from them and move on. But at the same time, don't make the same mistake over and over again, because at that point, it is a pattern. It's not a mistake, right? So for me, it's about owning them. It's about learning from them, circling back, understanding what went wrong, how can we fix this, and move on. That's it. Yes. It's simple. Don't hide it under the rug. And a lot of leaders end up hiding that. I don't appreciate that. I can't associate with that. Hey, I'm human. I'm going to make mistakes if I'm doing something new.
Yes. And as I coach my clients when they're heading into interviews, asking those behavioral based questions, you're going to have a question around challenges or, a failure. And it's important to talk about the lessons that you've learned. So the learning that you take away from those failures and how you're growing from it. And that in itself will demonstrate your emotional intelligence and self-awareness.
True. And it's also coming, the mistakes actually empower you too, right? You can make a mistake in the cockpit, or you can make a mistake on the ground. Once you've registered it, acknowledged it, now it's time to move on.
Yes.
You're a step ahead of where you started. Doesn't matter where you are, right?
Yes.
And it's so important. Mistakes are so good. Unless they are life-threatening.
Yes, yes. And when you think about the version of yourself before flying, and the version of yourself today, what has changed most in how you see your own potential?
I think before I started flying seriously and started taking classes and was very focused on this, I was all about my career. I am ambitious. I had been doing different roles over time. And for me, I didn't think beyond that. For me, I was defining a lot of who I am with what I did. When I started flying, it gave me the sense of freedom and empowerment. I could do things outside of a boardroom or an office or a team. This was all about me, right? I'm not trying to get my pilot's license to be a commercial pilot. That's not the game here, or that's not the end goal here. For me, it's about being able to pursue what a dream I had when I was much younger. So it's given me the freedom. It's given me I would say the awareness that life can be different. And life is more about just my career. Yes, I'm young. Yes, I want to do a lot more other things. Yes, I want things to be achieved. But this was a dream that I am just trying to accomplish from a different lens.
Yeah.
So it's actually changed my perspective and made me, I would say, a better human being, because now it's not just about one thing. Me is not being defined just by my work. Me is defined by who I am, what my fundamentals are, and also what I am outside of my work. I'm a person, right?
Yes.
And in the cultures that I have grown up, a lot of our identity comes from the work we do. And this has encouraged me to break away from that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And for me, in my training, it got to a point where I'm feeling halfway. And at that point, I was like, I am not giving up. Even if it takes me another year, I am going to get my pilot's license. And it wasn't for the purpose of becoming a commercial airline flight pilot. But what that did, it reinforced or awakened in me the notion that I can do anything I put my mind to. I put in the work. I went to the night school, learned how to talk on the radio, learned about weather and all the different clouds. And it reinforced that I can do anything I put my mind to and do the work to get there.
It's what you're saying is, what I'm hearing is, I think it's an accomplishment, but also an empowerment.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, I really did feel empowered the day I got my license, the day the instructor signed off on my flight logbook, and Transport Canada gave me I don't even remember, it was so long ago, but
that nobody can take that feeling away. It's just so personal, but also such a proud moment. It's like so many other things we do in life, right? We don't acknowledge our accomplishments. And I think you got to own it. You've done it. It's for you. And I think, at least the way I look at it for myself, this is for me. I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody. This is something personal.
Yes. Yeah. And I do think it's important that we both acknowledge for our listeners, the audience, that, this taking flying lessons can be incredibly expensive to take on that passion. So, I'm not encouraging everybody to go do it. I would encourage you to take an intro flight. Buttonville Airport, the Island Airport in Toronto, or wherever you are, find a flying school and go for that intro flight. It is incredibly thrilling. By the way, Shruti, you mentioned earlier at the beginning about roller coasters. I absolutely hate them. I hate roller coasters, and I would never jump out of an airplane. My daughter has done it twice.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yes. That's like overcoming your fear really in a very different way.
Yeah. I like to be in control. So I like to be in the pilot seat, not jumping out.
Fair.
But so on the note of, taking flying lessons, a lot of people can't afford it. I mean, it's prohibitively expensive with the price of aviation fuel, the instructors, plane rentals. But find something outside of your work that's going to bring you joy and help you evolve as a human being, as an individual. And, pursuing something that you're passionate about can give you amazing momentum.
And I feel adding on to that, Joanne, I think it also it helps you on a personal level,
Mhm.
right? Like most of us, we're focused on what we are trying to do. Work is a good chunk of our life, right? And
Yes.
sometimes we forget what life is all about beyond work. So any hobby, to your point, any hobby you pursue, whenever you do, find something that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be expensive, doesn't have to be 10 hours a week, whatever that might be. Find something. It actually helps you do your job better too, because it's a
Yeah.
break. For me, flying is also therapeutic. I don't know if I said that before.
We didn't touch on that, but you're right. Let's spend a minute or two on this. Yes, it
Yeah,
100% is.
right. You're in control, but you're focused. It's like
Yes.
you can't focus on anything else. All your worries go away, and you come back. I come back on the ground more clear-headed to be able
Yes.
to make those decisions, right? And the view is beautiful. That doesn't hurt at all. I mean, if it's the spring or the fall season, that's just cherry on the cake. But
Yes.
the view up top is amazing.
Yeah. A totally different perspective, and you need to stay focused. When you're in a little airplane flying the plane, your life depends on it. So you need to
Yes.
stay focused. But as soon as you land, and your landing is like butter, it's so smooth. It's just so rewarding.
It is. Recently, I think it was my last lesson, I ended up asking my instructor, hey, how much of the landing and takeoff is you versus me? Like, again, it's like when you're learning a car, your instructor also has all the controls. And he's like, no, it's 100% physically you. He's still guiding me through what I'm supposed to do or what I'm making a mistake on. And that feeling was so rewarding. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm getting a hang of this. I'm getting comfortable with this. And it's just, I can't even explain it in words.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing, that feeling.
Yeah, yeah. I hope everybody gets to, our audience, I hope everybody gets to experience that feeling. It might not be in this area, but whatever you choose to pursue, highly encourage you to pursue something outside of your work and your personal life. But that feeling is just amazing. It's totally worth it.
100%. So worth it. And yeah, let's just keep evolving.
Yes, I like that. I'm going to borrow that, Joanne. Let's keep evolving.
Well, thank you, Shruti. This has been really great. I appreciate you. And I hope our listeners enjoyed this episode of Career Ambitions. And hopefully we've inspired you to take up a new hobby.
Do something different. And
Yep.
I'm totally inspired by Joanne. When I met Joanne, it was really early in the game for me. So definitely your story inspired me, Joanne. And I hope our story together inspires others.
Likewise. Okay. Well,
Thank you so much for listening to Career Ambitions. If this episode gave you a new perspective, a practical takeaway, or even a little spark of confidence you needed, I would love for you to follow the show and leave a review. And if you're an ambitious corporate professional who's ready to stop guessing and start moving with a clear strategy, I would love to invite you to my masterclass. Inside this masterclass, I teach the exact strategies my clients are using to land their dream jobs. You can learn more about the masterclass in the show notes or at joannesparrow.com. See you in the next episode of Career Ambitions.